Hello, my name is Michelle, and I'm 63 years old. My husband passed away about 6 years ago, but I'm still working. I have 2 children, and 5 of my grandkids live in different states across the country. They each have their own families, and I feel truly blessed to have such a large family. One of my kids, Kyle, still lives in our hometown. He went to the local community college where he met his wife, Julie. I liked Julie well enough, but I didn't feel my opinion mattered as long as Kyle was happy. They got married shortly after and continued their education, each pursuing careers in their fields. Once they were both settled in their jobs, they decided to start a family, and I was thrilled at the thought of having another grandchild to spoil. However, Julie set strict boundaries when it came to visits. She controlled when I could visit and how long I could stay. While I understood this when Daniel, their first child, was a baby, it never really changed, even when he was 5. I tried not to let it bother me, thinking every family is different. Over the next 15 years, I didn't get to spend as much time with Daniel as I would have liked. We never grew as close as I had hoped, but we did share a love for books, so I always bought him books when I visited. One day at work, I received an unexpected call from Daniel. This was unusual, since we rarely spoke outside of family gatherings. I did my best to connect with him, as I had with my other grandchildren, but he seemed distant. "Grandma, are you free to talk?" he asked. "Of course, honey, anytime." "Is everything okay?" "No, no." "Why are you crying? Did you get hurt? Is anyone at home who can help you?" "Mom and Dad are here, but, do you need me to call them for you?" "No. I called you because I need your help." "My help? What's going on, darling?" "I need you to save me, Grandma." "Save you? What do you mean?" "She's not as sweet and nice as she acts. She's really mean to me when no one else is around." Suddenly, I heard someone coming up the stairs. "I have to go. Please don't tell them I called. Bye." I was left shocked and confused. As far as I knew, Julie was one of the kindest people. How could Daniel say such things about her? I didn't want to believe him at first. Maybe he was upset over something like being grounded. Daniel had always been a bit mischievous, according to both Julie and Kyle. But something in my gut told me he wasn't joking. The call haunted me for days, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. After some time, I decided to buy a hidden camera. I felt uneasy about spying, but I convinced myself that if Daniel trusted me enough to call, I owed it to him to help. If I found nothing, I'd just remove the camera. But if there was something wrong, I'd figure out what to do next. I hoped it would be a simple misunderstanding, and a long talk would set everything right. The camera arrived a few days later, and I set it up, glad to see it had both live and recorded footage that I could access through an app on my phone. After making sure everything was in place, I called Kyle. "Hello, sweetie. How's everything?" "Everything's great, Mom. What about you?" Same old, same old. I was wondering if I could come by one day. We haven't seen each other in a while." "Of course. How about this Sunday?" "That works, but should I check with Julie if it's okay? I used to hate it when Dad made plans without asking me. But don't worry, Julie will be happy to have you over." "See you then, Mom. I'll be there around 6 o'clock. I was glad to be going to Kyle's, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I had other motives now. I was still excited to spend time with my son. It wasn't often that I got to see my family, so it felt special to have one of my children living in the same town. The weekend arrived quickly, and I made sure to get ready early. I decided to bring something along, so I went to the grocery store to pick up a nice bottle of wine and bought a couple of books for Daniel, knowing how much he loved to read. When I arrived at Kyle's house, I was warmly greeted by all 3 of them. But it was Daniel's look that caught my attention. He stared at me with such a sense of relief that I couldn't help but feel concerned again. Since that first phone call, I hadn't heard from him, so I had no idea what was going on. I spent the next couple of hours chatting with Kyle and Julie. We had dinner, drank wine, and enjoyed each other's company. At some point, Daniel excused himself and went to his room, likely because we were talking about things that didn't interest him. I decided to go and spend time with him. Julie tried to subtly stop me, but I insisted. I hadn't visited in a long time, and I wanted to spend some one-on-one time with my grandson. Kyle told Julie to let me go, and I headed up to Daniel's room. Once inside, I closed the door behind me. I walked over to him and handed him the books I had brought. We talked about them for a while, and since he seemed excited, I let him ramble on. I didn't bring up what he had mentioned during our phone call earlier. I wanted him to talk about it if he was ready, not push him. Our conversation shifted to other topics, like what was going on in our lives. While he was telling me about his school and other things, he grabbed a notebook and wrote something in it. When he showed it to me, it said, "Mom's listening. Can't talk about anything." I couldn't tell if he was serious or just paranoid, but I went along with it. We continued talking, and I quietly wrote my plan in the notebook. I told him I had brought a hidden camera and asked if I could set it up in his room. He quickly agreed. I found a good spot to place the camera, one that gave me a clear view of the room. After starting the recording, I checked my phone to make sure the camera was working. I sat with Daniel a little longer, then told him it was getting late and I needed to head home. Before leaving, I purposely left my scarf behind as an excuse to return if needed. As I headed downstairs, I heard footsteps quickly moving away from the door, which made me wonder if Daniel was right all along. I hugged him goodbye, said my farewells to Kyle and Julie, and then went home. That night, I was tired but couldn't resist checking the footage from the camera. I stayed up for an hour, watching it, just in case something happened. Kyle walked into Daniel's room and asked what we had talked about, and Daniel told him. That was it. I finally went to bed, exhausted from the day. The next morning, I rushed to work and didn't check the camera again until I knew Daniel would be back from school. Again, there was nothing of concern, and I started to think maybe Daniel had been lying, but I decided to give it one more day. If I didn't find anything, I would visit when neither Kyle nor Julie was home and ask Daniel to give me the camera back. That night, as I watched the footage while reading, I finally discovered what Daniel had been trying to tell me. Julie entered the room with a stick in her hand, with Kyle following behind her. I quickly unmuted the video. Julie asked Daniel what he had done all day and made him describe everything in extreme detail. Whenever he stuttered, she sharply asked if he was lying. If she suspected he was, she made him hold out his palms and hit his knuckles 3 to 5 times with the stick. I watched in growing horror as Julie hit Daniel more and more frequently. Daniel was sobbing, and Kyle just stood there, watching. I was filled with a deep sense of disappointment and disgust. I had raised my children gently, believing that kids are smarter than we often give them credit for. They can understand when things are explained to them. I couldn't understand why Kyle just stood by, letting his son get hit for no reason. I wanted to rush over and stop them, but what would I say? It would be strange for me to show up again, just a day after my last visit. Then I remembered that I had left my scarf there, which could be the perfect excuse to go back, but I needed to wait another day, to make sure I could see Daniel again. I quickly grabbed my phone and called Kyle. Hey, Mom, is everything okay? Yes, no worries. I hope I'm not disturbing you. No. Julie and I were just saying goodnight to Daniel. Alright then, I just wanted to tell you that I think I left my scarf in Daniel's room last night. I remember setting it down and forgot to pick it up. Do you think I could swing by tomorrow to grab it? Why don't I just bring it over now? No, I'm too tired. I'm about to fall asleep. It's been a long day at work, and I can barely hold the phone right now. Alright then, how about tomorrow evening? I can't. I have a game night with friends tomorrow. Well, Julie and I won't be back until the evening. Why don't you come by the day after? I really need that scarf for tomorrow. We're having a gathering. Okay, you could come by in the afternoon. Daniel will be home. Lovely, I'll be there around 3. Good night, Mom. My heart raced as I ended the call. I'd come up with a lie on the spot, but at least my call had distracted Kyle and Julie enough for them to focus on what I said rather than continuing to hurt Daniel. Before they left Daniel's room, I heard Julie tell him that he wouldn't be getting any food until dinner the next day. I was appalled, but sadly, I knew they would follow through with it. The next day, I took the day off from work and prepared myself for the conversation with Daniel. I was sure he wouldn't want to stay there, but I needed to hear it from him. I stopped to pick up some food on the way over. When I arrived, Daniel looked like he might faint. He was weak and exhausted. Julie had really made him go without food. I quickly gave him the food. and he devoured it, eating with a desperation that broke my heart. I felt so sorry for him, but I knew I had to help make things better. When he finished eating, I spoke to him softly. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Did you see everything that happened?" "Yes, darling. I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I had no idea." "It's okay. Mom seems like the nicest person, but has she always been this way?" "The beatings only started recently, but the starving has been going on for a while. I don't understand why Kyle isn't doing anything. He's too scared of Mom. He just follows her, does everything she says, everything she wants, she gets." "Honey, I'm so sorry you've been dealing with this, but I need to understand, why didn't you eat anything at school?" "Mom doesn't send me to school on days she doesn't let me eat. I stay home. Mom measures the food in the house, and if even a little bit is missing when she gets back, I get punished more." "So she's starving you and hurting your education?" "I'm going to do my best to help you, okay? I need you to tell me right now, if you want to come live with me. I'll take care of everything, and I'll keep you away from Mom and Dad." "Of course, Grandma, anywhere away from here would be great. I promise I'll be good, just please take me away." "I promise I will, darling, but it'll take some time. Can you handle staying here a little longer?" "Yeah, I can. I've been here for 15 years, so I can wait a bit more." I carefully took away all the wrappers and made sure there were no traces of food left behind. I didn't want Julie to make things worse for Daniel. We cleaned up the crumbs and double-checked the room to make sure it looked just as it had before. Afterward, I went home and called Kyle to thank him for being cooperative and letting me pick up my scarf. I reached out to a good friend who worked in family law and explained the situation. He told me that fighting for custody would be a long, difficult battle. While I might be able to secure temporary custody, Julie could change her behavior and regain custody with little evidence. It seemed that the odds were against me, but I had a plan. I could use the evidence I had gathered to make Julie agree to let me become Daniel's legal guardian. Julie worked as a counselor at a middle school, and I knew she wouldn't want her child abuse becoming public, as it would ruin her career prospects. I continued to monitor the footage carefully, gathering more evidence and preparing the necessary paperwork for a guardianship transfer. I waited until the weekend to visit Kyle without giving notice. When Kyle opened the door, he seemed surprised. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you." Julie appeared at the top of the stairs, and Kyle hesitated. "I don't think now's a good time." "Why, what's going on?" "Just family stuff." "Why are you suddenly visiting so often? Can't I visit my son?" "I didn't think I needed special permission for that." "No, I didn't mean it like that. It's just that you've taken an interest in us this week, and it's a bit weird since you rarely drop by." "It's not weird. I only came over today because I have something very important to talk about with you both." As we spoke, I heard loud crying coming from Daniel's room. I could tell something was wrong, so I pushed past Kyle and entered the house. I couldn't just stand by. I rushed straight to Daniel's room. Bursting through the door, Daniel was sobbing, clutching his face, while Julie stood there, breathing heavily, glaring at him with such malice that it sent a shiver down my spine. I immediately ran to Daniel and asked if he was okay. He hugged me tightly and wailed into my ear. Julie huffed and walked away without saying a word. As Daniel calmed down, I saw his cheek was red and swollen, his knuckles were bleeding, and there were welts on his arms from the stick. A deep rage built inside me. How could anyone hit a child so violently? No child deserved that. I went downstairs to the kitchen, grabbed a bag of frozen veggies, and brought it back to Daniel to help reduce the swelling on his cheek. Once he seemed stable, I told him that I would take him with me. I asked him to pack as many things as he could, and then I went downstairs to confront Julie and Kyle. Julie looked furious, and Kyle seemed like he wanted to disappear. "How dare you barge into our home like this?" "Well, isn't it a good thing I did? You were hitting your child. What happens in my family is none of your business. Your child is my grandson, and he's part of my family too. You're hurting him, and I can't let that continue. He may be your grandson, but you don't live with him. You don't know what a brat he is. I'm just disciplining him." "Who cares if he's a brat? He's a child, and there are many other ways to discipline a child without hitting them. You of all people should know this." "I don't believe in that gentle parenting nonsense. Leave me and my family alone." "I'm afraid I can't do that." I handed Julie the papers to transfer guardianship to me. Both she and Kyle stared at the papers, confused. "You both have to sign, or I'll release proof of you hitting Daniel." "What do you mean by proof?" "I set up a hidden camera in Daniel's room last week. I have all the proof I need. Neither of your jobs will appreciate what you've done. Especially you, Julie. If you want to keep your career intact, I suggest you sign those papers. You were spying on us? That's a gross violation of our privacy. I only acted on information I had. I needed to make sure Daniel was safe. Mom, don't do this to us. Give us another chance. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't want to hear it. I'm very disappointed in you, Kyle. I raised you to be better than this. You're just as guilty as Julie, if not more. I'm taking Daniel with me, and I expect these papers to be signed. If not, you know what will happen. They didn't put up a fight. As Daniel and I left, I took him to get dinner and ice cream, trying my best to comfort him. I gave him a safe space to share his feelings without fear. In the following weeks, I was granted legal guardianship of Daniel. Julie and Kyle claimed they planned to move to a different state and didn't want to disrupt Daniel's education, which they used as the reason for transferring guardianship. They did end up moving, and I was relieved. Daniel is doing much better now. He's happier knowing he won't run into his parents for a long time. He's one of the kindest and sweetest kids I know, and he thanks me every day for what I did for him. I intend to keep my promise to always protect him. Thank you for listening.
I couldn't bear the thought of being trapped with a man who looked at my pregnant belly with such disdain, as though the very sight of me at 9 months filled him with revulsion. The cruel smile he wore only added to the bitterness. He seemed to relish this moment as if anticipating it all along. Not wanting to endure another second of his disdain, I quickly went to my room, retrieved a set of papers, and thrust them into his hands. "Divorce papers," I said curtly. Brian's face twisted in shock. "What the hell is this? Out of nowhere?" I met his anger with a steely gaze. "This was your idea, Brian. Now sign them. I'll be filing them first thing tomorrow." My voice didn't waver, even as his face flushed with fury. "You'll regret this," I added, my resolve unwavering. "Watch closely, because you'll see what it's like to be treated the way you've treated me. Let me introduce myself. My name is Linda, a 27-year-old former housewife. 3 years ago, I worked at a mobile company where I met Brian, my boss at the time. Back then, I was 25, eager to learn and grateful for Brian's guidance as a newcomer to the job. It didn't take long for our professional relationship to evolve into friendship. Soon, dinner outings turned into dates, and eventually he asked me out. I was thrilled. I had never dated anyone before. It's a little embarrassing to admit, but I was more captivated by cartoon characters than real men. Yet seeing my friends marry one by one, I felt pressured to find my own partner. When Brian entered my life, I secretly promised myself he'd be my first and only love. We married a year later, and I couldn't have been happier. Brian was handsome, popular, and the envy of many female coworkers. I felt proud to be his wife as colleagues congratulated us. Their words of admiration made me feel like I had achieved something special. I was blissfully unaware of what lay ahead. The day after our marriage registration, Brian dropped a bombshell. "You're married to me now, so you'll quit your job, right?" he said nonchalantly. I stared at him in disbelief. "I've already informed them," he added with unnerving finality. "What? But you never mentioned this before." I protested, caught off guard. Brian's stern expression silenced me. "Starting tomorrow, you won't need to go to work. I'll handle the handover." His words were like a guillotine slicing through the life I'd built. The decision had been made without me. Brian's role as my former boss made it even harder to argue. Reluctantly, I quit my job without saying proper goodbyes, determined to make our marriage work. At home, I threw myself into household chores, preparing Brian's favorite meals and trying to meet his expectations. Yet, no matter how hard I worked, he never acknowledged my efforts. I craved even a single word of appreciation, but none came. Without a personal income, I was completely reliant on him, and our relationship started to feel less like a marriage and more like that of an employer and his housemaid. Things took a turn for the worse when I fell ill one day. Exhausted and feverish, I stayed in bed, promising myself I'd catch up on the chores later. Brian stormed into the bedroom, furious. "What are you doing lying there? Get up and make some food," he barked, yanking a blanket off me. "I'm not feeling well," I murmured, hoping for compassion. "Could you handle things yourself today?" His response chilled me to the bone. "Pathetic. You don't work, and now you're lying around because of a little cold." Tears blurred my vision as I forced myself out of bed. I couldn't believe this was the same man I had fallen in love with. Overwhelmed, I completed the housework, tears streaming down my face. Several days later, I realized I'd missed my period. A pregnancy test confirmed it. I was expecting. Overjoyed, I cried tears of happiness, eager to share the news with Brian. But when he came home late one night, the smell of alcohol on his breath, my excitement dimmed. "I have something important to tell you," I began hesitantly. "I haven't seen a doctor yet, but I think I'm pregnant." Brian's expression darkened instantly. "Pregnant? What the hell have you done?" His harsh tone cut me to the core. "I don't want a child. If you're going to have it, you'll be raising it alone." He spat before storming off to the bathroom. I stood there stunned. This wasn't the life I had dreamed of. This wasn't the man I thought I had married. I couldn't understand why Brian would say such cruel and irresponsible things about our baby. Moments earlier, I'd been filled with joy at the thought of becoming a mother. But his words shattered that happiness, leaving me in a pit of sorrow. Why would he react like this? He had never mentioned not wanting children before. We hadn't even been using contraception, so I'd naturally assumed he wanted kids too. As I ironed Brian's jacket and prepared to take his shirt to the wash, a wave of sadness overwhelmed me. Then something unexpected happened. A small piece of paper fell from his dress shirt pocket. I picked it up absent-mindedly, thinking it might be a receipt from his outing that night. I almost threw it away, but something caught my eye. The name on the receipt made my heart stop. A motel. My hands trembled as I stared at the incriminating slip of paper, confirming what I didn't want to believe. It was indeed a receipt from a motel. The shock hit me like a physical blow. Why would Brian go to a motel? Isn't marriage supposed to be a sacred bond between two people who love each other? We'd only been married for a little over a year. How could this happen? I was no stranger to romantic fantasies, having spent years dreaming of perfect love rather than experiencing real relationships. But now, faced with this harsh reality, I struggled to accept what was unfolding before me. The possibility that Brian was cheating began to make horrifying sense. Had he been using me from the start? Was he in love with someone else while I played the role of a convenient housemaid? Was this why he reacted so coldly to my pregnancy? These doubts swirled in my mind, and I couldn't shake the gnawing feeling that there was more to Brian's behavior than met the eye. As I grappled with these thoughts, nausea swept over me, not just from morning sickness, but from the realization that my husband might have betrayed me. Perhaps his insistence that I quit my job had a sinister purpose. Maybe his mistress worked there, and he needed me out of the way. Everything seemed to click into place, and my mind blurred the lines between reality and suspicion. But the heartless words Brian had hurled at me when he learned of my pregnancy were undeniable. That day, I resolved to uncover the truth. From then on, I observed Brian's behavior with new eyes. His coldness was impossible to ignore. It was as if he resented me for becoming pregnant. Despite knowing how sick I felt, he would eat smelly foods near me, criticize my housework, and force me to redo tasks. My pregnant body endured his cruelty while my heart grew heavier by the day. But I didn't let it deter me. I began investigating his infidelity. Brian guarded his phone fiercely, never parting with it, even taking it to the bathroom, making it nearly impossible to check. I searched his pockets, hoping for more receipts or clues, but my efforts were fruitless. I even considered hiring a private investigator, but without any personal income, I couldn't afford such a step. Just when I felt trapped in my search for answers, an unexpected lifeline arrived. One day, my phone rang. It was my father. "Dad?" I said, surprised. His busy schedule rarely allowed for casual calls. "Hi, Linda. How are you?" he asked warmly. "Everything's fine," I lied. "Is something wrong? Aren't you busy with work?" "My employees are handling things well, so I'm taking it easy," he replied. My father, the CEO of a company in England, had always been a workaholic. His call was unexpected. "What's going on?" I asked, curious. Then came the shocking revelation. He told me something that made my world tilt. "Is that true?" I asked, struggling to believe what I was hearing. "Yes," he said firmly. "I wouldn't lie to you. Trust me on this." The pieces of the puzzle started falling into place. Though initially stunned, I felt a strange sense of relief. "Thank you, Dad. I'll handle it from here," I said, my voice steady with newfound resolve. The truth emboldened me, but it also reignited my anger. As the months passed, Brian's behavior remained distant and cold. His disdain for me and our unborn child never wavered, and each interaction deepened my hatred for him. At 9 months pregnant, I was always cautious around Brian, living in constant apprehension. One evening, I served dinner as usual, hoping to avoid any confrontation. But as we sat at the table, Brian suddenly slammed his fork down. "What is this? It's tasteless," he exclaimed, throwing the plate of food onto the floor. I froze, baffled by his outburst. Anger began to well up inside me as I looked at the discarded meal I had painstakingly prepared. "I've been meaning to say this," Brian continued, his tone laced with contempt. "Your cooking has been terrible lately." Tears stunned my eyes, but I held them back. Since becoming pregnant, I had deliberately used less seasoning to ensure healthier meals for our baby. This was only temporary, and he could easily have added salt to his portion if he wanted. But instead, he chose to humiliate me. Why? Why did he have to treat me like this? I was about to respond to Brian's harsh words when he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You're a woman with a belly like a monster. You'll have to raise this kid on your own." His cruel smile sent a chill down my spine. Though I had always feared this day might come, I had clung to a sliver of hope for a better outcome. Without hesitation, I went to my room, grabbed a document, and returned to him. "Here are the divorce papers," I said, thrusting the papers in front of him. Brian's face twisted in shock as he stammered, "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" "It was your idea," I replied firmly. "Now sign them. I'll be submitting them tomorrow." I had been contemplating divorce ever since I started suspecting Brian's infidelity, but with a baby on the way, I hadn't been sure I could support myself. Now, with a new plan in mind, my resolve was unshakable. My determination seemed to provoke him. His face flushed red with anger as he snarled, "Just watch. I'll make you regret this. Do you think you can survive without me? You've got a baby to take care of. You'll regret it." Unfazed, I held my ground. "I'll be fine. Don't worry about me," I said calmly. Irritated by my confidence, Brian snatched the papers and begrudgingly began to fill them out. "Here. If this is what you wanted, take it," he spat. "Thank you," I replied, my tone steady. Brian likely didn't believe I'd actually submit the papers, but the next day, I did just that and left the house. I moved to my parents' home, where my father, recently returned from England, had suggested I stay. It was the right decision. I was fed up of my life with Brian, and my father's support was invaluable. That day, Brian called me 5 times. I ignored every call. Eventually, he stopped trying, and it became painfully clear how little I meant to him. He was probably content with his mistress and might even remarry soon. I resolved to move on from him entirely. 5 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby and settled into a peaceful life with my parents. Parenthood brought me joy, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly content. Then Brian called again. At first, I ignored his persistent attempts to reach me, but after several calls, I finally picked up, weary of his intrusion. "What do you want now?" I asked, my tone flat. "Hey, what's going on? Why were you on that show? And since when are you the daughter of a CEO with millions of dollars?" Brian's voice was a mix of surprise and anger. Unbeknownst to me, Brian had seen a TV show that aired after I moved back home. The program, which featured my family, highlighted my father's role as the CEO of a global tech company and estimated our family's wealth at $20 million. I hadn't anticipated Brian watching it, but TV has a way of reaching unexpected audiences. "Oh, by the way," I said nonchalantly, "I didn't tell you about my $38 million inheritance. That's why I was able to divorce you." Brian was furious. "What? That's absurd. Why didn't you tell me before? Half of that is mine, right? Give me the money now." I laughed coldly. Just as I thought. After seeing the show, all you care about is money. Gifts from parents aren't included in the property split. And don't forget your own wrongdoings, Brian. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice tinged with unease. "I'm tired of your antics," I said, my patience wearing thin. "You cheated on me, didn't you? With your new wife, your junior from work. You started dating her even before we were married." Brian was clearly shocked. He hadn't expected me to know the truth. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" I continued. "My father has connections everywhere, including in your company. I've known for a long time." I paused before delivering my final blow. "By the way, I'll be demanding child support. Brian's anger turned to denial. Stop kidding. Why should I pay child support? You got pregnant on your own and slacked off on housework. It's all your fault. I couldn't believe I had once loved someone so devoid of common sense. Leaving him was the best decision I had ever made. Brian, I said with a mix of anger and exhaustion, do you even hear yourself? I'll have my lawyer handle child support. Never call me again, and you'll never see the child. Goodbye. I hung up and blocked his number, feeling a wave of relief. It was finally over. Later, I learned from a former colleague of his that Brian was struggling. His new wife was a reckless spender, and he had plunged into debt trying to keep up with her lifestyle. He had hoped to get a share of my inheritance to ease his burdens, but his plan failed miserably. While Brian wrestled with the consequences of his actions, I thrived. My father offered me a position in his company, promising to pass it down to me one day. I embraced the opportunity, ready to build a future for myself and my child. After all, I am my hardworking father's daughter. Hi, I'm Sarah Chen. From a young age, technology fascinated me in ways most kids couldn't understand. While others played with toys, I was busy dismantling and rebuilding old computers. My parents weren't wealthy, but they always nurtured my curiosity, even as our living room transformed into a makeshift lab of circuit boards and tangled wires. Sarah, honey, what's your latest project? My mom would ask, carefully maneuvering around my cluttered workspace. Just tweaking the processing speed, I'd reply, focused intently on my task. She'd smile, shaking her head with a mix of amusement and exasperation. Just make sure it's all cleared away by dinner. Despite our financial struggles, I earned a scholarship to study computer science. By my final year, I had developed a groundbreaking AI algorithm that drew attention from top tech firms. One company even offered $50 million for it. I accepted the deal but kept my newfound wealth a secret. No extravagant lifestyle or flashy purchases, just strategic investments and relentless pursuit of innovation. I wanted to be known for my work, not my money. That's when I met David. We first crossed paths at a coffee shop where I was engrossed in my laptop. David accidentally spilled his coffee, narrowly avoiding my device. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," he blurted, frantically reaching for napkins. "It's fine, really," I said with a laugh, helping him clean up. "I'm Sarah." "David, let me buy you another coffee to make it up to you." One coffee turned into dinner, and dinner blossomed into a relationship. David was kind, funny, and endlessly supportive, even if he didn't fully grasp my work. A year later, we got married in a simple, heartfelt ceremony. Then I met his family, including his sister, Jessica. From the outset, Jessica made her disdain clear. As a senior executive at Turner Tech, one of the city's largest tech firms, she exuded an air of superiority. "So, Sarah, what do you do?" she asked during our first family dinner, her tone dripping with condescension. "Freelance work and some cleaning jobs," I replied, choosing to keep my accomplishments under wraps. "Oh, how quaint," she said, exchanging smug glances with their mother, Linda. What they didn't know was that Turner Tech had long been on my radar. The company was riddled with inefficiencies, and I saw vast potential for improvement. So I took an unconventional route. I applied for a cleaning position. "A cleaner? Are you serious?" David asked, bewildered. "But you have a degree in computer science." "Trust me," I said with a knowing smile. "I have my reasons." When Jessica spotted me in my cleaning uniform, her shock was palpable. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, pulling me aside. "Working," I said simply. "Just stay out of my way," she hissed. "And don't tell anyone you're my sister-in-law. It's embarrassing enough having you in the family." For 6 months, I cleaned offices, quietly observing the company's inner workings. I noted wasteful spending, toxic management practices, and overlooked opportunities. Meanwhile, Jessica seized every opportunity to belittle me. At a family gathering, she announced her latest promotion with smug satisfaction. "I'm now vice president of operations," she declared. "Some of us actually have ambition." She cast a pointed look in my direction. David squeezed my hand under the table but remained silent. His lack of support stung more than Jessica's insults. The annual family dinner, hosted at Jessica's lavish new home, was the breaking point. "So, Sarah," she began loudly, "how's the cleaning going?" "Must be riveting, emptying trash cans all day." Before I could respond, she continued, We had a board meeting today about the company's future. Of course, you wouldn't understand such things. You were probably too busy scrubbing toilets. Laughter rippled through the room, except from David's grandmother, who looked deeply uncomfortable. Actually, a calm voice interrupted from the doorway. She understands more than you think. All heads turned to see Mr. Thompson, Turner Tech's CEO, standing there. Jessica's face drained of color. "Mr. Thompson, what are you doing here?" she stammered. He smiled and glanced at me. "I came to welcome our new owner." The room fell into stunned silence. Jessica's fork clattered onto her plate. "Owner?" Linda echoed weakly. "Yes," I said, standing. "I acquired controlling shares in Turner Tech last week. For the past 6 months, I've been learning the company from the ground up." Jessica's face flushed with fury. "This is absurd. I've worked at Turner Tech for 8 years. I'm a vice president. And also a thief," Mr. Thompson said firmly. "You've been embezzling company funds for 3 years. We have proof." Gasps echoed around the table as Jessica stammered denials. I opened a folder I brought. "The cleaning staff notices everything, Jessica, including your falsified expense reports. Every penny you stole has been documented." Linda turned to me, pleading. "Sarah, surely you won't press charges against family." I met her gaze evenly. "Family? For years, you and Jessica have treated me like I was beneath you. Mocked me, excluded me, and made David ashamed of his own wife." "I wasn't ashamed," David protested weakly. "Then why did you never defend me?" I asked, my voice calm but firm. "Why did you let Jessica dictate my worth in your eyes?" David looked down, unable to respond. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, breaking the heavy silence. "Mrs. Chen, shall we discuss the next steps?" "Yes," I said, turning to Jessica. "You have 2 choices. Option 1. Resign immediately, repay every cent you stole, and sign a non-disclosure agreement. Option 2. I press charges, and you face the legal consequences." Jessica's eyes darted around the room, searching for an ally. Finding none, she slumped back in her chair. How much time do I have to decide?" she whispered. "Until tomorrow morning," I replied firmly. "And Jessica? Clean out your office tonight. Either way, your time at Turner Tech is over." Linda rose from her seat, her face flushed with anger. "This is outrageous. David, are you going to let her ruin your sister's career?" David hesitated, his face troubled. "Mom, if Jessica really stole money, of course you take her side," Linda snapped. "She's been manipulating you from the start." "Actually," Mr. Thompson interjected calmly, "Mrs. Chen has been more than fair. The evidence against Jessica would typically result in immediate arrest. Offering her a chance to repay the money is an extraordinary act of generosity." I gathered my things and stood. "Mr. Thompson, shall we? I believe this family dinner has come to an end." As we made our way to the door, Jessica's voice rang out. "Wait. What about my house? My car? They're all financed through my Turner Tech benefits." I turned back, meeting her panicked gaze. "The company will repossess them, of course. You might want to start packing." The following days were a whirlwind. Jessica chose option 1, resigning and agreeing to repay nearly $300,000 in embezzled funds. Her glamorous lifestyle evaporated overnight, forcing her to move back in with Linda and Richard. Meanwhile, David repeatedly tried to reach me. I had moved into a hotel, needing space to think. "Sarah, please," he begged over the phone. "Can we talk about this?" "About what, David?" "The way you let your family treat me like I didn't belong. Or how you stood by while they tore me down for 3 years. I didn't know about your success, about Jessica's stealing. I didn't know any of it." "That's not the point," I said quietly. "You knew how they treated me, and you did nothing. My worth as your wife shouldn't have depended on my bank account." I threw myself into reforming Turner Tech. The company needed a complete overhaul, and I was determined to see it through. Each day brought new challenges, but the work was rewarding. Then, one morning, my assistant buzzed in. "Mrs. Chen, your mother-in-law is here. Security called up. She's demanding to see you." I sighed, already weary of the confrontation. "Send her up." Linda stormed into my office, her face a mask of fury. "How dare you do this to our family?" "Jessica is devastated." I met her gaze calmly. Jessica devastated herself when she decided to steal from the company. I merely exposed the truth. She made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. 3 years of systematic theft isn't a mistake, Linda. It's a calculated crime. Her shoulders sagged slightly as she collapsed into a chair. She can't find another job. No one will hire her with this scandal. She created the scandal, I said evenly. Actions have consequences. Linda's tone softened, turning pleading. Please, we're family. Surely we can find a way to fix this. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. Family? Let's recap, Linda. Last Christmas, you told everyone I wasn't invited to the family gathering because the help shouldn't mingle with guests. At David's birthday party, you seated me in the kitchen with the catering staff. When I got sick last year, you told David he should have married someone more suitable. Linda's face flushed with embarrassment. We didn't know who you really were then. And that's the problem, I said firmly. You judge me based on status, not character. Now that you know I'm wealthy, suddenly I'm family? Let me be clear. I'm the same person I've always been, and I won't protect you from the consequences of your choices. Linda stood, straightening her expensive jacket. So that's it? You're willing to destroy our family over a few harsh words? No, Linda, I replied. Your family destroyed itself through its actions. I'm just refusing to shield you from reality anymore. After she left, I stared out my office window as the sun set, painting the city in warm hues. My phone buzzed. Another message from David. Please come home. We can work this out. I love you. I typed back, sometimes love isn't enough. Respect matters too. The weeks that followed were a blur of change. Turner Tech transformed under my leadership, with new policies, fresh talent, and streamlined operations. Yet my personal life remained in disarray. David's attempts to reach me grew more desperate. One evening, my assistant buzzed in again. Your husband is here. He says he won't leave until you see him. I sighed, sent him in. David walked in, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. His tie hung loose, and his usually neat hair was unkempt. Sarah, he said, his voice raw. We need to talk, really talk. About what, David? About us. About everything. He sank into a chair, his shoulders slumped. I've been thinking a lot. I failed you. I was a coward. I stayed silent, waiting. When Jessica and Mom treated you badly, I told myself it wasn't serious, that family dynamics are complicated. But I was wrong. I avoided confrontation because it was easier, and I let you down. Yes, you did, I said quietly. But Sarah, why didn't you tell me about your success? About your wealth? We're supposed to be partners. I walked to the window, looking out over the city lights. Do you remember last Christmas at your parents' house? Jessica joked about me being the cleaning lady who trapped her brother. Everyone laughed. You laughed too, David. He flinched. I didn't mean. That night, I almost told you everything. But I stopped. I realized that if you couldn't respect me as a cleaner, you didn't deserve to know me as a CEO. That's not fair, David protested. Isn't it? I asked, turning to face him. Your family's treatment of me showed me exactly who they were. And your silence? That showed me exactly who you were. Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Mr. Thompson. Sarah, we have a situation. Jessica's trying to access the company's servers remotely. She's attempting to delete files. My stomach dropped. Stop her, immediately. It's already handled, he replied, his tone grim. But there's more. She's been emailing confidential information to our competitors. I locked eyes with David, who had heard every word. Do you know about this? His shock seemed genuine. No, I swear, Sarah, I had no idea. Picking up the desk phone, I called security. Escort Mr. Chen out, then notify the police. We have evidence of corporate espionage. David grabbed my hand. Wait, Sarah, let me talk to her. Maybe I can reason with her. The time for talking is over, David. Your sister is trying to destroy my company. Within hours, the police arrested Jessica at her parents' house. They uncovered laptops filled with stolen data and emails offering Turner Tech's secrets to competitors. Linda called me later, furious. You've gone too far. First, you humiliate her, then take her job, and now this? She's your sister-in-law. She committed a crime, Linda. Multiple crimes. The evidence shows she's been planning this for weeks. She was desperate. You pushed her to this. No, Linda, I said firmly. She chose this. Just like she chose to steal from the company. Just like you chose to treat me like dirt for years. The next day, headlines blazed. Former VP arrested for corporate espionage. Jessica's polished corporate headshot was juxtaposed with her mugshot, and the fall from grace was splashed across every major news outlet. David came to my office, his face lined with anguish. "Sarah, please," he said, "she's my sister. There must be something you can do." I studied him, my voice calm but unwavering. "You know what hurts the most, David? Even now, after everything she's done, you're still defending her." "I'm not choosing sides." "Yes, you are," I said, holding his gaze. "Your sister stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, sold company secrets, and tried to ruin everything I've built. Yet you're here, begging me to protect her." Again, his shoulders slumped. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to finally make a choice, David. Not the easy one. The right one." "Are you asking me to choose between you and my family?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm asking you to decide what kind of man you want to be." The investigation unearthed even more than we anticipated. Jessica's theft and betrayal stretched back months, costing Turner Tech millions. It prompted sweeping reforms, tighter security, stricter audits, and a culture overhaul. One evening, my assistant brought me a letter from David. "Mrs. Chen," she said, hesitating. "He said it's important." Opening it, I read the familiar handwriting. "Dear Sarah, you were right. I've spent my life avoiding conflict and taking the easy path. But in doing so, I failed the one person I vow to love and protect. Today, I testified against Jessica. It wasn't easy, but the prosecutor says my statement will ensure she faces the consequences of her actions. My parents are furious. Mom won't speak to me, and Dad says I've betrayed the family. But for the first time, I know I'm doing what's right. I don't expect this to fix things between us. I lost you long before Jessica's crimes came to light. Every time I stayed silent, every time I chose comfort over courage. I've moved out of my parents' house and started seeing a therapist. I need to understand why I let fear dictate my choices for so long. I love you, Sarah. But I understand now, love without respect and action isn't enough. Whatever you decide about us, I want you to know that I'm finally becoming the man I should have been. David." Tears blurred the ink as I reread his words. The next morning, Jessica pleaded guilty in court. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to repay $2.3 million. Months passed. Turner Tech thrived under its new leadership, and I finally felt the satisfaction of a company built on integrity. Meanwhile, David started volunteering at a tech center for underprivileged kids, a cause we had once dreamed about together. One evening, as I was leaving the office, I saw him waiting by my car. "I'm not here to ask for another chance," he said quickly. "I just wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For showing me what integrity looks like, for making me confront the truth about myself." For a moment, we stood in silence. Then I spoke. "Would you like to get coffee sometime?" "Just to talk." A small smile crossed his face. "I'd like that." 2 years later, Jessica remains in prison. Linda and Richard have relocated, and Turner Tech is a leader in both innovation and ethics. David and I have built something new, an honest friendship founded on mutual respect. Looking back, I realize the hardest battles aren't for money or power, but for dignity and self-worth. I won that battle by refusing to compromise my values. The sun sets over the city, casting golden light on the Turner Tech building. Tomorrow brings new challenges, but for now, I'm at peace. True wealth lies in integrity, courage, and the strength to stand tall, even when the world tries to pull you down. And that, I've learned, is priceless.